Okay, so we all have things we want to get better at, right? Whether it's becoming a better communicator, a stronger leader, whatever. We always start out with a ton of energy. But then, life happens. That initial fire fizzles out, and that daily practice we promised ourselves just vanishes. So let's get into why that happens, and more importantly, how we can actually fix it for good.
So seriously, why is this so hard? Why do our best intentions seem to have such a short shelf life? You start a new routine, you're all in for a week, maybe two, and then you miss a day, then another, and before you know it, you're right back where you started. Look, it's a super common feeling, but the reason it happens isn't because you lack willpower, it's because you're using a flawed strategy. And this right here really gets to the heart of it. See, motivation, it's a roller coaster. It's a huge rush at the beginning, but it's totally unpredictable, with these wild peaks and valleys. Trying to rely on it is like building a house in an earthquake zone. A system, though, that's different. That's a steady, reliable, upward climb. It doesn't care how you feel on any given day. It just works. Which brings us to our first big idea, and it's a huge one, what I call the motivation myth. We've all been sold this idea that motivation is the secret ingredient for success, but in reality, it's probably the most unreliable fuel you could possibly put in your tank. Here's the thing you have to understand. Motivation isn't some deep personality trait. It's just a temporary feeling. It's a chemical reaction. And it always follows this cycle. That initial burst of excitement feels amazing, but it's that sharp, inevitable decline that trips us all up. So the problem isn't that you lost your motivation. The real problem is that you were depending on it in the first place.
So, if motivation is the enemy of consistency, what's the answer? Well, we need something that doesn't require it at all. We need to build a system. This is the part where you stop trying to muscle through it and you start getting smarter about it.
And honestly, this is the big aha moment. True success isn't about having some kind of superhuman discipline. It's about designing your life, your environment, in a way that makes the right choice the easiest choice. It's about removing the need for willpower almost entirely. Okay, you're probably thinking, how do I actually build these systems? Well, luckily for us, there is a proven roadmap. We're going to walk through a framework based on James Clear's work, which breaks down the entire science of habit formation into 4 simple, super actionable laws.
Just think of these as the 4 levers you can pull to basically engineer any habit you want. First, make it obvious, so you can't possibly forget. Second, make it attractive, so you actually want to do it. Third, make it easy, so there's no excuse not to. And finally, make it satisfying, so your brain craves doing it again. Let's break them down.
First up, make it obvious. This is all about designing your environment for success. So instead of hiding your recording gear for your communication practice away in a closet, put it right in the middle of your desk. The goal is to make the cue for your new habit so visible, so in your face, that it's actually harder to ignore it than it is to just do it. Second, we have to make it attractive. Let's be real, the habit itself isn't always going to be fun. So the trick is to link it to something that is. It's a cool technique called temptation bundling. For example, you only get to listen to your favorite podcast while you're reviewing those leadership principles. Your brain starts to connect the dots and actually look forward to the practice because it's associated with a reward. Law number 3 is an absolute game changer. Make it easy. Our brains are fundamentally lazy. They're wired to take the path of least resistance. So we're going to use that to our advantage. Make your new habit so laughably easy that you can't say no. This is the famous 2-minute rule. Don't commit to a 30-minute practice session. No, commit to just 2 minutes. Anyone can find 2 minutes. See, the goal isn't to master the skill on day 1. The goal is to master the art of showing up. And finally, make it satisfying. Our brains are wired for immediate gratification. A long-term benefit just doesn't hit the same way. So you've got to give yourself an immediate win. After you do your 2 minutes, get a calendar and put a big, fat, satisfying X over the day. That simple act of tracking your progress, it feels good. It creates a little reward loop in your brain that makes you want to keep that streak alive. Okay, so we've got the 4 laws down. Now, let's talk about 2 super powerful strategies to weave them into your actual busy schedule. Because let's be honest, I don't have time is the #1 reason good habits die. First up is habit stacking, and it is just brilliantly simple. You're basically hijacking a habit you already do on autopilot, like making your morning coffee. By latching your new habit onto that existing routine, you let the old habit's momentum do all the heavy lifting. You're not trying to find new time in your day. You're just bolting the new habit onto something you already do.
And notice how specific these are. It's not, I'll practice sometime today. It is, after my morning coffee, I will record a 1-minute video. That level of clarity removes all the guesswork and the decision-making, which are the absolute enemies of consistency. The second strategy, time blocking, does something very similar. A vague to-do list is really just a wish list, but a schedule, that's a plan of attack. When you give your goal a specific time and a specific place on your calendar, you transform it from a vague, I should probably do this, into a non-negotiable appointment with yourself. But, okay, what happens when life throws a wrench in your perfect plan? This is where you bring in the secret weapon, if-then planning. It's basically a way to decide in advance how you're going to deal with obstacles so you don't have to rely on willpower when you're already stressed or tired. See what's happening here? These pre-planned responses make your behavior automatic. You've already made the decision ahead of time. If you feel too busy, then you do 2 minutes. There's no debate, no arguing with yourself. You're essentially programming your brain to default to the right action even when things go sideways. So when you put all of these ideas together, the 4 laws, stacking, blocking, if-then plans, you arrive at the ultimate goal. You want to design your default behaviors. You want to engineer an environment and a schedule where success is the easiest possible outcome, the absolute path of least resistance. You can think of this as a practical checklist for just lowering the barrier to entry. Every single one of these actions makes being consistent just a tiny bit easier. Keeping your device ready saves you 30 seconds of setup. Turning off notifications removes one little distraction. And believe me, those tiny optimizations add up in a huge way over time. And as you're doing this, as you're tracking your progress, just remember this one simple but incredibly powerful rule. Never miss twice. Look, missing one day is an accident. It happens to everyone. But missing 2 days in a row, that's the start of a new negative habit. The key isn't being perfect, it's getting back on track as fast as humanly possible. Don't let one slip up become a complete downfall. And that really brings us to the final critical mindset shift. This isn't about being tougher or having more grit or just being more disciplined. It's about being a better architect of your own life. It's about building systems that are so effective that discipline and motivation just become irrelevant. The work just gets done. So I'll leave you with this question. Forget about trying to find more motivation. That's a losing battle. Instead, ask yourself this. What is the one simple system you can build this week to make one of your goals feel automatic? Just pick one thing. Make a cue obvious, make a habit easy, stack it onto something else, and just start there. That's how real change happens.